An Inner View with Ryan Gallagher.
Beautiful.
Oh, praise the Lord.
Terry, thank you, mate.
No problem.
I really appreciate this this little, allowing your time for a chat. Yeah, I suppose it'd be a good place to start at the start, really. So where did you grow up? Where did you like?
I was born in Camden Town in Royal College Street. We've lived I lived in Camden until I was about 11.
Okay.
And then I was put in care.
Right.
I was put in the care at a place called Langtree Walk in Swiss Cottage. And from there I was, first of all I went to Stanford House as a young sort of wayward kids where they were sent there. And then I got expelled from school at 11. I went to Langtree Walk, then Stanford House, and then I got assessed to go to a place called Greenacres in Wiltshire, and that was like a community home, where I spent about 2.5 years, 3 years there, working on a farm.
Okay.
So no education. I was deemed too disruptive, and so they put me on they sort of put me on the farm to sort of work, which for me was great because I love animals. I love being out in the open. As I said, I suffered from dyslexia as a kid, so I had a lot of embarrassment about going into class. So the perfect place for me was in the middle of a farm, which was great. Unfortunately, I had a girlfriend now who got pregnant, and I was then kicked out of there. I think 14, 15 years old.
Okay.
And then moved back to London, and they never ended anywhere suitable for me, so they put me in a flat in Dorney Towers in Swiss Cottage with two other guys. Both.
What age was this? 15, you said?
I was about 15, yeah, just 15 years old. They put me into a flat with these two guys, and they was in their 20s. I think one of them was 24, one of them was 25. One of them was an armed robber. And over the course of a few weeks, I started speaking to him, and I was quite big for my age, and I was quite aggressive, and I could look after myself. And he suggested that maybe it might be a good experience for me to actually come on one of the bits of work they were doing. So we went and look at a few post offices. I think there was about 6 or 10 of them in the area where I was living in, Swiss Cottage, Camden Town, all over the place. And for the next few months, I was robbing them. I was going in there with a sawn-off shotgun, and just really demanding money with menaces. It was crazy. I was 15 years old, and I don't say that I was easy led, but I was put in this flat. I never had no money, and I got offered an opportunity to actually earn some money.
Right.
So and I grasped it with both hands. And as a young kid, my role models were all villains. My dad was an armed robber, and everyone that I grew up with in that area were all at it. They were either selling gear, selling drugs. We bought everything we had in the house. I remember when I was younger, I came off the back of a lorry. So the only thing I ever knew was criminality, and I never had no fear of it. So it was actually normal.
Yeah, the normal.
So to then step up to armed robbery as a young kid was nothing. That wasn't hard for me.
Okay.
It was just a natural progression from doing, warehouses. When I was a kid, I was shoplifting with my mum. She used to actually put me through the window of places when I was a kid. That's one of the reasons I actually went into care in the first place. Okay. So all of a sudden I'm back in London. I'm going down to the electric ballroom, the music machine every night. I'm 15 years old. I've got loads of money in my pocket, and I've just found women. So money, women, drugs, alcohol. I thought I cracked it.
It's all quite a dangerous thing to happen at such a young age, isn't it? Like to have all that at your feet, without any sort of grounding in the world or any kind of.
I think when you come from a single parent family, I think you you know, if you're giving your mum money, you know, I was doing robberies, I was doing warehouses and factories at that time, and I was giving her cigarettes, I was giving her clothes, and she was earning lots of money. So that then entitled me to actually be the man of the house at a very early age. So when you make your own rules up and you live by your own rules, then everything's doable. You know, you don't see anything wrong in your actions as long as you're putting food on the table for your mum and your brothers and sisters. You know, doing what I was doing was seen as quite an honourable thing. You know, in a real crazy mixed up way. You know, in a normal household where you have a father and a mother, and if you do anything wrong, they would castigate you. They would tell you off, and you know, not to do that again. You know, you'd reprimand you. And unfortunately, in my home, or when I was younger, it was seen as if I got caught, that was really bad. You know, they would beat me. They would beat me. But if I got away with it, they would.
Well done.
Well done, son. Well done. I say, you know, well, you know. And then it was on to the next thing. So
it's quite a kind of dangerous way to kind of reinforce like positivity in that way. Do you know what I mean? To praise it and to
you know, thinking back now, because I've got 5 kids, and I would never dream of doing that to any of them. You know, I've learned, you know, for me, I pushed them all through education, through college, university, you know, and if any of them got in trouble, I would be down to school. God forbid they ever went into the police station, which none of them did. They would have been in trouble. Not I wouldn't have physically hurt them, I hit them, but for me, I've learned that, you know, violence doesn't help. But I would have gone out of my way to make sure that I would have took them to school, and I would have made sure they didn't mess around again, which I did on quite a few occasions. But I've never applauded that sort of lifestyle what I had. You know, I think we learn from our mistakes, we learn from our parents' mistakes, but looking back on it, it wasn't normal. So yeah. But unfortunately, it was normal for me at that time. Right. I never knew anything different.
So when you're out in Camden, all this money and all the, you know, the women, the booze, the drink, what were you feeling at that time?
Do you know? I thought I was untouchable. Really? Yeah, I thought I'd cracked it. I'd made it. You know, this is what life is all about. I'm a 50-year-old kid. I've got loads of money. I'm drinking. I'm in leisure leads, low profile. You know, these were clubs that men went to who were all villains. You know, I could go into a club and buy a shotgun. I could buy a handgun. You know, I could speak to Tony or Peter or whatever, and then I can say I need a car. You know, and a car would be dropped off wherever I wanted it. You know, I'd have the keys, everything else. So it's like a university of skullduggery. Wow. You know, so you know, but it's so normal that it was just like going to the pub. You know, back in the days, you know, the pub was somewhere, or a club where you go would be like a community centre or a social setting. But in the criminal underworld, or that sort of criminal underworld, then we had low profile in Swiss Cottage, the Les Elites, the Tunnel up in Hampstead. These are all places where you had to be a member, and you had to be part of that clique to actually get in there. Right. You know, and your dad had to be a part of it as well. You know, so you know there was a bit of nepotism, criminal nepotism in it. To get in there, right. You know, so you know if you know Camden, you know that there's some quite in Highbury, there's some quite big families, criminal families, and you know, people want to aspire to that. They want to aspire to being part of that world. You know, there was no one in my community who worked that I wanted to aspire to. The chip shop guy, no way. Yeah. The kebab shop, that guy, no way. The guy in Tesco's, Co-op. These are not something that you wanted to aspire to when you was younger. It's only after years and years of being in prison that they've probably done so much better than me. You know, probably paid for all their houses now, and they've got their family, and they've been there all the time. So you know what? On reflection, them guys were the heroes. Them guys are the guys that I should have looked up to, instead of trying to aspire to being like I was, and having my role models, and aspiring to do 10 or 15 years in prison, which I eventually did.
Where did that kind of, well, the kind of height of having all that kind of money and all that sort of stuff, where did that take a turn for the worse? Where did that kind of?
You know, I was doing it for a couple of years, and I ended up renting a place out on my own. I moved out with it from the guys. I got a place in Hampstead, and you know, I had a couple of girlfriends. I was doing really well, and then one day I came in, and I had this this overwhelming feeling that something was going to happen. There was something dread. The hairs on my back went up. And as I put the keys in my door, the whole place just exploded into life with old Bill with guns. Yeah, and they just, you know, first of all, I got a whack across the nut. I was spread eagle on the floor. There was all guns in my head, and then someone kicked me in the nuts. And that was it. They said, "We got him. Don't fucking move, or we're gonna kill you." And that's when the reality came, and that's when it set into me that this is not a game.
What age was that?
I was 17 then.
Okay.
You know, and up until that point, it was a game. You know, it was a game of cat and mouse. Because I convinced myself that I wasn't really hurting anyone. So we'd done it. We'd never went in the intention of hurting anyone, but we was intimidating. We was quite frightening, putting guns in people's faces. But it was still just a game for a young kid. You know, I was a young kid and in a man's body. But that day when I got arrested was a day that I seriously woke up. You know, because now I'd hit a big time. They were like the Sweeney back in them days, right. And they didn't hold back on any punches. Trust me.
What were the thoughts and feelings going through your head when you were down, spread eagle, gun to your head?
He was just you know the dread that I'd been captured. You know the thought of being captured, the thought of now having to go to prison. You know, because I had a vision of prison that was draconian. You know, beatings. Somewhere you haven't got a television, and you're stuck there 24 hours a day, somewhere and banged up with the worst people in society, the hardest, the most dangerous, and this was going to be my well for the next 2 or 3 years or whatever sentence I got. I actually got a 4-year sentence at 17. I ended up going to Aylesbury, Ashford, Aylesbury, and Chelmsford. I ended up in Aylesbury prison, which is a big Victorian place, and it was just violence every day. You know, people were getting cut. You know, people were getting hot water with sugar chucked in their faces. It was just a mad place to be. You know, but it was also after a while it was normal. It became home. You know, it became my home, and it wasn't the fear went. I always say, if they would have let me out the first day I actually pulled up in that sweatbox outside that prison, and the thought of going in there, I think it was dark at night, and I could hear people shouting at the windows. I could see all the bars, I see all the screws. I think at that one moment, if they let me go, then I don't think I'd have ever done anything again. Wow. That was that moment of dread and fear of the unknown, that anxiety and everything that was going on, the adrenaline, and then all of a sudden they opened the sweatbox and said, "Get in." You take your bag of stuff and you go in there. But normally in them situations, I'm not a picture of equanimity. I'm just really calm. I'm just like, because I don't show nothing. I think from a young age, I always was quite calm in little. Even in my internally, my fucking stomach was my stomach was going over and over. I'm normally quite calm in a situation. I think it's because I was in care. Were you outwardly calm, but inwardly kind of? I was outwardly really calm, but inwardly I was on fire. For me, I think if anyone would have said anything, I would have weighed them in. Right. That you can't hit a screw simply because you will get battered. You'll get severely battered. So there was an underlying anger and everything that was going on inside me. But you want to notice it. So they give you your number, they check your gear, give you your bed in. You have a strip search and a shower, and then it's off to your room and your cell for the next couple of years. Right. And it's only when that door shuts that you really start to think of God. One day in prison is like a month outside. Wow. When you haven't got a telly, it's not a good place to be. But when you consider that it's the safest place that you're ever going to be behind that door, because once that door opens in the daytime, as I said, for breakfast, dinner, and tea time and exercise, you're now mixing with some of the roughest kids and the roughest men that you could ever imagine. And their only stock in trade is violence and intimidation, because every time you get canteen, someone's going to come after it. If you smoke, they're going to come after it. So you really got to grow up really quick. You got to evolve into a monster, something that you wasn't really used to outside. On the outside world, you treat people as you find them. We done our bits of work, as we called it, but we always treated people with civility and was nice to the old people and everything else and women. But the minute you go into prison, you just become a real nasty person. Right. Outwardly or when you're in your cell, you get that moment to reflect and you go back to nice. But the minute you step out of that cell, you've got to be someone complete. You've got to be someone who's prepared to do anything to protect himself and get his own way.
Do you? Yeah, that was my question. Do you do it to protect yourself, or do you do it to kind of
I think it's
flush your feathers in a way? Or?
No. I think you have to do it to protect you.
Survival protection.
Yeah, the bigger the bowl, the bigger the insecurity. But it's also the bigger the bowl, the bigger less people are going to come near you. So you create a monster. So all the time I was in prison, I was doing circuits every day. I was doing weights every day, pull-ups. I was trying to create this other side of me that wasn't really me, this persona. And for for 2.5 years while I was in there, all I did was press ups, sit up, burpees every day. I was like a machine, boxing, and that didn't set me up for coming out. So now instead of going in there and actually doing rehabilitation courses and trying to change my way, I then became fitter, stronger, and I'd been talking to guys that lived in different parts of London, who had the connections to get me further up the ladder. So it was not as rewarding as far as rehabilitation was concerned. It was only rewarding as far as I actually met other people that could advance my criminal career, which is
creating
crazy.
Networks around.
Yeah, it was crazy. I had a network in Camden that I could survive, but I now had a network all around the country that I could go to.
When was the story? During what time? What time period?
I was.
As in what year? What?
You know what? I think it was. It's got to be the 80s.
80s, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think 80s. I think I went inside at 17, 18, 19. I came out at 19.
Okay.
I came out. I started to do the jump ups.
What's that? What's jump ups?
What happened is I met some guys in prison, and they were older than me. I think one of them was about 40 years old. He then walked me through the whole scenario of following vans around, and how they do it. They're called sign ups. So what you do, first of all, you follow vans, and when they do a delivery, you take everything that's on the back off and put it in your van. But as you get better and better, you start to take your own locks with you. So what you do, you take everything off them, and then you put the same lock on, so they don't realise that you've actually stolen anything. So it gives you enough time to go away. So we was doing that. We was then nicking the vans, we were nicking the lorries, slide hammering them. And then we had a go at sign-ups. So what happens then, you would see the lorries coming off the motorway, and you'll see someone who's lost, and you would deliberately, get in front of them, and you would find out where they were going. You say, "You look lost, mate. Where you going?" So I'm going to this place. So show me your ticket. Where you going? I'll see if I might be able to direct you. So you'd see what he had on there. Most of them were like, television, lorries, anything that we could sell, cigarettes, anything else like that. We would then send them in a completely different direction to where they wanted to go, and then we would go there. And then when they turn out, we say, "Listen, mate, we've been waiting forever for you. We're going for breakfast now, and it's going to take us another hour and a half to get you started on you." And you go, "I've got another delivery to make," and you say, "Well, we can't go in and unload it because they're just unloading the other stuff. Listen, put it on the pavement." I said, and I go to my couple of guys who was in the van. "John, Steve, help me unload it and I'll sign for it." That's called a sign up. So he would then load it all on the floor, and he'd thank me or thank us for helping him, and so he can get on his way. And as soon as he pulled up, we would then bring our van over and fill it up.
I'll tell you what, there is a because it just in my kind of little head, I just imagine, you put the money in the bag, let's go. But it's not. It's a proper operation. It's real well thought out, real.
We used to follow vans. We just follow vans, and you've got a block of flats. That this guy is gonna ring on. He's got a ring on the buzzer. He's got to get in the lift. He's got to go to the top floor or middle floor, wherever it is. Now that van is yours. You don't just run on it. We had all different UPS uniforms. We had Oxfam. We had everything, every sort of uniform that we could just blend in. So if it was just a normal white van, lorry, or countryside or anything like that, we just get our barrows out and we'd walk over to it. We'd have our clips on the side. We'd clip it, and then we'd load it. We'd walk to the van, and we'd just do it. And then anyone was looking at us, it just looked so normal. It's like we learned very early on in our criminal careers that if you look like a criminal and you act like a criminal and you're looking around and you're doing all these things, the only person you need to worry about is a guy who's got the keys to the van. That was the criminal side of it. It did have some really. I actually did save someone's life by doing that job.
Really?
Yeah, I won't tell you where it is, but I remember I was on this lorry, and I was on my own, and I thought, you know what? As soon as I see a guy unloading, there was a pallet full of vodka, and there was all chocolates on the back, like 2 or 3 pallets, and I thought, well, I can sell them straight away. It's not a problem. So what I did, I went to the front of the guy's lorry. It's a 7-ton lorry, but 3.5 there on the weight inside. So what I did, I walked to the front and I took his keys out of the ignition. You know, so I jumped up, took the keys, and I went back a bit, and I was watching him. And all of a sudden, I'm watching, and all I see is I see him go like that, off over. He's about 57 years old. I was only in my 20s then. I saw him go over, and I thought, oh, fuck, what's happening to him? You know? And anyways, in the death, I just had to run up there. I ran up there, and I dragged him, and I pulled him outside the van, outside the lorry, and I put him on the floor. And then next thing, as I turned around, the police were there. There was a bus stops, and there was loads of people there. And I said, I just saw this guy. He just fell over as I was walking past. So
think faster.
Let me see if there's a jacket in the front. So as I went to the front, I put the keys back in there and got his jacket, and I put it under his head. And you know, they said, well, you know, the ambulance came, and you know, I know that the Royal Free was the nearest hospital. So, you know, I was walking at the time. I wasn't driving. So you know, where it was situated is about you know, a 20-minute walk, and it was near where I was living anyway. So as I walked up, I went into the hospital, and I said, like, yeah, the guy came in from the side of the road, and blah blah blah, and I said, yeah, he's gone down there, blah blah, blah. And I thought I'd just go and see how he was doing. And when I got there, his wife and his kids were there. They were, you know. And I said, I just want to check that he was okay. I was the one that saw him, you know, fall over. And you know what? He had come to by that time. And he said, I can't believe how you saw me. So I can't believe it, because I was right at the back. And he said, and his mum, you know, his wife and the kids were all thanking me for saving his life, because he would have been dead otherwise. He would, you know, an heart attack. And I said it was just a pure fluke. I was actually walking past, and I saw you in the corner of my eye, and I saw you one minute. And so you know, out of doing something bad, something good. Yeah, so in a criminal mind at that time, you sort of offset the good things and the bad things that happen, and you sort of justify that by that.
You have to kind of make it not normal, but you have to kind of make it okay what you're doing, you know.
Yeah.
So from doing that, then how did your life kind of go? Were you back in out of prison, or did you?
And what happened then? I was like, we'd been nicking lorries then, and you know, we were getting quite well known by the old bill. And then next thing they flopped on us. You know, I remember I was living in this flat, and luckily when they all come to get me, they went to the wrong place next door. So I heard the door go in next door, and I thought fuck. Luckily I had my passport then. I think I was 21, 22. So I grabbed hold of my passport, and I got a phone with someone to get me a ticket to Spain. And they nicked all my couple of pals that I was working with, and I went over there. I thought, well, you know what, I'll stay over here for a little while and see what happens. And I met some people over there because you just know everyone. From, you know, as soon as I landed, I phoned a friend. You know anyone here? Yeah, go and see them. They'll be at this bar this time. They'll have some work for you. And I went down there, and I spent the next couple of years packing puff.
Okay.
So I was picking up from the beach. I was packing it. Then I was driving it from Marbella to Valencia. And yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed it. You know, I was in the beach every day. I don't know, having a drink, you know, drinking, partying.
Did you still see that as kind of normality and normal? Was that, or did you have like an inkling then that it might not be normal, or is it just what you grew up as?
You know what? I don't know if I had sort of a death wish then, you know, because I didn't really care, you know, because I remember. You know, it wasn't like it is now. They got motorways, but back in the old days when we were doing it, they had A roads. So you had, and on them A roads, they had roadblocks all the time. So you took your life in your hand when you done it. So you know, we normally have 3 cars, one at the back, one at the front, and me in the middle. And you know, if anything looked like it happened, he would speed up, or phone me, and say like, you know, there's a roadblock coming up, turn off. But if you missed it, then the car behind who had English plates would then speed up and go. So we had a little procedure, but it's quite you know, it was nervy from the, you know, I remember going there, and I could feel the sweat, you know, from starting to drive it, and as soon as I got you know, a few 100 and something kilometres into no man's land, which it was, going up to Memphis, you saw the old bill because you had the normal police, and then you had the Garda Civil, and when you saw them, they were the hardcore. They were the ones that wanted us, you know. So we had nice cars and we had our shirts and all that up and in the window, so it looked like we were working up and down there. So we filled up down that end with petrol, so we had enough to get us all the way there. So you didn't speak English because normally they would say there's an English firm coming up. And then we would just drive through the day, and but the sweat. I can remember I was just saturated with sweat, thinking, "Fucking, if this goes wrong, and I'm going to be in a Spanish prison. No one knows where I am. No one knows who I am over there because none of my family knew what I was doing back in England." But it was just like you just thought, well, you know what, it was,
Would they differ in the way they treated you in Spanish prison to English prison? Have you?
I've had a few. Yeah. I've had a few people nicked that I knew over there over the years, mostly in French prisons, because we used to the groups I knew were they were quite prolific. They've been nicked in France, been nicked in Spain, everywhere, and the stories that we heard. I think the only thing you could guarantee if you got nicked that you were fluent in Spanish or French when you came out. So there was a plus side to it, if anything.
You learn a language.
So yeah, something to look forward to. I was pretty lucky though that I had the luck of the Irish, and I can always remember. I don't know if it was like a thing that I used to do. The only song that I could always remember while doing it was Roadblock.
Okay.
And I used to sing Roadblock, da 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 da, and I couldn't get it in my head, So. But I don't know. I just sang it, and I sang. We had I think a few Elvis tapes I put in there, and I just got through then, and we got down the other end. We done what we had to do, and then we came back to England, and I think the markup then was quite good. I think you could buy a kilo of puff for about $3.5 grand, then $2.5 grand, and you was buying it over there for a couple £100. Right. So the markup was really good. I remember buying my first Jeep. A Range Rover, I'd made it. As far as I was concerned, I had a nice little flat in Swiss Cottage. I had a Shogun, a Range Rover. I had a people carrier. A girlfriend I had a couple of kids then as well, and I thought I was Jack the Lad. I thought I was invincible, But something happened over there. One of my friends got killed in a car crash,
right.
And so I moved to Amsterdam.
Okay.
So I started over there doing other things, and then I stayed there for quite a while, and that was quite heavy. That's quite a heavy situation. I was working with Serbians in the army, Yugoslavians, and it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough there. You know what I mean? But it was a living. I was driving stuff about, ecstasy and everything else.
Was this like 90s kind of time?
Yeah, it was when it was really big over here.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
it was, and you know what? Money was like, it was nothing. I was going out every single night. It was the lifestyle I was living there was unbelievable. I was in the restaurants every night. Whorehouses. Morning, noon, and night. It was really crazy. It was like being in a candy shop. For I don't know if you've ever been to Amsterdam.
I haven't, did you?
Yeah, it's seeing it, and then all of a sudden you get to a point where you just don't do it anymore.
Right.
So you go through it, and then all of a sudden you live there. You're living there now, and you're working. And then you go for a different thing where you go to restaurants and you meet people. The only people I met were actually, they were growers, or they were sellers of different things. And so you had to mix them. But I said it got quite hairy out there. I got a few friends of mine who got shot. And then people were killing people over £30, over 30 grand. Right. They would go on meets and they would be shot. 30 for 2 or 3 kilos of coke. So I thought, what, I've had enough of this. I'm coming back, and I came back after someone got shot. I thought I'd better get out of there a bit quick, and came back to England, and then I started working for a little Colombian firm, like a cartel that I knew out there. They was in England, and they could get it into England, but they never had a good outlet for it. So all of a sudden I've come back to have an easy life. Sort of, I've got money. I bought a nice house. 2 houses then we had with my girlfriend, and I thought, what, I've cracked it now. What I'm going to do, I'm going to sell both of these houses. I'm going to move to Spain, and then I met this little, I've started working with these guys, and what they were offering me was unbelievable. You know, they offered me a living like, you know, you would only dream of, you know, like talking like giving me like 10, 15k of cocaine every day. My hardest problem was just getting it round London, you know, just getting it to the people, you know, in the quickest amount of time, because it was just all over. I was delivering, and it was going really well. I'd cracked it. I was earning loads of money. I was mixing some really good people, and then we had 9/11. You know, when the tower blocks went up, and one of the guys that was dropping off for me, he was watched it all night and got a bit pissed and was doing Charlie, and I'd arranged for I tend to pick up 12 key that morning of coke, and he phoned me and said I can't make it. So you know, so what we did, we cancelled everyone, but one guy had already made his way down. So I said, listen, I'll drop that off. I'll pick that 2 key up and I'll drop it down there. And like an idiot, I went and picked it up, and as I dropped it off to him, he then went into a block of flats. I thought he was giving it to the people that were buying it, but he had gone to his own flat and was taking stuff out of it. And I was downstairs. Next thing, the whole car went in. I think we had a Mercedes then. Every window in the car went through. It was, you know, and everybody in the street came alive. It was old Bill. There was traffic wardens, everything. And there was all old Bill. That was on him. And then unfortunately I got done when he walked out. I got done with for association. I got 6 years.
6 years.
Which was, you know, it's part of the course. We live the life and we expect what we get. But it wasn't good because you know, 1 minute I was out in someone's house, and I think it was worth about £12 million. The night before, I was in a party. And my girlfriend at that time was her sister was a celebrity. I won't mention her name for obvious reasons. Sure. But I was out. I used to go to Kate Moss and Jude Law every night, Hugh McGregor, all that lot. You know, we used to live in that sort of lifestyle. And you know, I was going ice skating with them, going to the cinema, the theatre. And the next day, I was sitting in the cell with all graffiti on the wall.
Literally world crashing down, huh? Like,
yeah, just thinking, fuck, you know, like, I wish I never got up that morning. I wish I'd never done it. I had someone to do it. It was just pure. You know, I didn't want to let someone down for some reason. An obligation to give them some drugs, but you know, I did. And you know, and now I was sitting in the cell. It had no windows. It stunk in there. A toilet with no seat, a sink with just scouring all crap around it. And the floor, you know, it stunk, and I had one sheet and one blanket and no pillow. And I was sitting there looking at everything, fucking hell. But it was just crazy. It was really like, it was a moment I'll never forget. Because at the same time, there was a cross on the wall. And the light was shining on the cross. And I picked the cross off, it was on a plastic thing, and I put it on. And I don't know why, because I never even believed in God or anything before, but I thought, you know, I'm going to keep that because there's something there, you know, and I kept it all the way through my bird. But I went to court and I got 6 years, and with that they confiscated my house. My girlfriend kept the other one, and like most things in life, especially when you're involved in crime and drugs, the relationships you have are based on drugs and nothingness, and that relationship went down the pan straight away. And there I was sitting in prison doing 6 years with nothing. Right. I was on my own again. They confiscated all my money, all my house, everything else, and that was it. I was quite an angry, bitter, twisted guy that wanted to get it all back.
And this was 6 years in the mainstream prison, or in?
This was in a mainstream prison. Okay. This was it was. I'd done Pentonville, Wandsworth, and I ended up in Swaleside. It was one, you know, so it's a dispersal prison. And it's just like, it's like the OK Corral. Right. You know, it was like, you know, just everyone down the gym, everyone, you know, on steroids, everyone trying to be as big as they can. And the violence was just unbelievable there. You know, people were getting killed, people were getting cut, you know, there was fighting every day. It was like, it was a jungle, it was a nut ass, you know, but it was normal. It was just like, I've been there so long and been through the system before, like, I was home. You know, it's crazy. But I just couldn't wait, you know. But he never held anything for me because I'd already done a prison sentence. And I knew what was coming, and I'd heard all the same jokes. I'd heard all the same stories. And, you know, people become legends in their own heads in prison. And you listen to it, and after a while, you just get so bored of it. So, you know, I started just reading a lot, trying to educate myself a little bit better in that time I spent now. But as I said, I was really bitter, you know. So I wanted to hit the street rolling when I got out, and I'd done all the rehabilitation programs that didn't work, unfortunately. And then when I got out, I just was straight back in it, you know. After I think I'd done 4 years out of that 6, and I landed on the street, and I went bang at it straight away.
Straight again, yeah.
Yeah, but this time I learned a lot. You know, I learned that guns weren't the right thing because they were giving out 25-year sentences. There was also shooting armed robbers on sight, you know, and if they do a ready eye on you, which is if they were looking at you, looking at a job, they would wait for you to come out and then shoot you. That was, it was happening.
It's the harsh kind of reality, I suppose,
Yeah.
when you're amongst it. Yeah, right.
So we decided to do it a different way. You know, we actually procured a load of police uniforms, police hats, everything, all the paraphernalia that a policeman would have, and with the cars as well, the vans, and we even had an Alsatian dog. And then we started doing warehouses with computers, you know, computer chips. You know, we would go there and we would say, like, we believe there's drugs coming to the premises or firearms and everything, and from my protection and my officer's protection, we're gonna have to handcuff everyone in here, bring the dogs in, and then see what the state of play was before we let you go. We'd handcuff everyone, and then we bring our vans in, and we'd load up. It was really like taking candy from a baby. It was just so easy, but we just carried on doing it for a while.
Do you get a rush and a thrill? Does that still come with it, or was it just something that you know, so you just do it because that's all you know? Or?
Well, you know, we got done in 2008 for Verizon. That was in King's Cross. You know, that was quite a rush. They had 8 security guards there, state-of-the-art biometric hand scanners, keypads, airlock doors. You know, it was right next to a police station. There was actually 3 police stations. One at the back of it in Kentish Town, Islington, and then you had Albany Street. And on the back of this place was the canal, so you couldn't get away. There was one way in and one way out, and it was like Fort Knox in a big turret. It was lit up like a Belisha beacon, and but it was a challenge. You know, lots of firms in the area had looked at it that we knew, and said it was too much of a high risk to actually go in there. But they had motherboards and everything. I think Morgan Stanley owned the properties, and they was one of their biggest contributors to it. They had 100 rooms of motherboards and computers, but they had one room that was where they kept all the mother load of boards. So we looked at it for a couple of weeks, and we decided to go and do it. You know, and it's getting back to your original questions. How do you feel? You know, a lot of people ask me. You know, so there's a lot of it is stupidity. It's not, why would you put yourself on offer to go and do something like that, knowing full well you're going to get 10 or 15 years? But the anxiety that goes with it, I think everyone acts differently. You know, one of my guys was always making jokes, you know, because that's how he dealt with it. Someone else would be really quiet, you know, wouldn't say nothing, would just be on point. Everyone had their little things they went through. I know for me, I would always go through a job 100 times in my head. I'd go 100 different ways, in and out. You know, if the old bill come, what I would do. If the people started acting how they shouldn't, how I overpower them. So it sort of didn't leave any time to be nervous. But also, I think whenever you do that sort of work, there's always an anxiety. There's always a dread and a fear, an adrenaline rush that can't be beaten or replaced with anything else I've ever done. Wow. There's also a camaraderie between the guys because you know you're going to do something that no one would even consider. Anyone in their right mind wouldn't even consider. You're going to a place with 8 security guards. You're going to a place where they've got probably 15 guys doing maintenance work and cleaners and everything else. And you're going to go in there knowing full well that the old bill could come past at any time. Someone could press a panic alarm. There's all cameras there linked to the police stations and everything else, and you're going to walk in there as old Bill, and you're going to do this, and you don't really know what's going to happen until you walk in there. So you know, part of it is stupidity, as I said, but part of it is there's something to do that no one else can do. Yes, it's you know, you go in there and you're all powerful and all consuming. and then you start. And then you go, and I was a leader of our gang, and you know what? Everyone was on point. They all listened to me. So when I went in there, I just led it, and then I'd pull the biggest one normally, the security guard, take him away, cuff him up, and then come back, and then they would all go and say, right, we'll be quite forceful, quite in your face, but we would also let them know that nothing was going to happen to them. We have to find out who they are before we can proceed to search the whole premises, because we would normally say we've had reports of someone getting in through the roof, or someone dressed as a security guard. And then that would sort of calm them down a bit. It just give us enough time before they sort of realised what was going on to cuff them and put them in a place. So that first couple of minutes was always the worst for me, but it was also the most exhilarating, simply because it had to be done, no matter what. You had to do it, because if you messed up, then it could have a knock-on effect. People could get nicked. People can get 20 years. So it had to be done properly. So once we secured everyone and I was comfortable, and then it just seems to be really easy. Everything just was like a film, believe it or not. We would get to the rooms. We'd put one guy on reception. So if anyone phoned up, we'd say, because a company did phone up. They had a live feed on the computers, and they said it's been switched off, which we turned them off. And we just said there's been a power surge in the computer system. It'd be up in 10 or 15 minutes, and then put the phone down. And then we had maintenance men coming in. And instead of tying them up, we let them go to their floors. We said, this floor is out of bounds, blah, 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 and let them, So that was quite airy, because I can remember being on the floor and then my mate telling them where to go, and feeling if they come onto this floor, I've got to weigh them in and put them on the floor. And there's two of them. Everyone's doing their job. And I'm on my own here to lift. I have to sort of orchestrate everything. You looking after the people, you going to get the motherboards, you doing your job, but overseeing everything and also checking that what's going on. So yeah, there was that anxiety about that, but the minute we done it and we was walking out of there, it was great.
How much did you walk out with?
I think they said we walked out with £5 million worth of computer equipment on that one. Right. We shut down 3 countries apparently on their data centers.
Really?
And over the next couple of days, because you do it, we went and dumped the cars, we went and dumped the stuff, we put everything away. The next day, I can remember that loads of firms phoning me up. I've been up all night. Because we done the job. We went back and we sort of celebrated. The way we celebrate is we talk about it. You talk about it and you have a little joke and you sort of let steam off and then you go home. Okay. And then we sell the stuff and that's the next day or the next couple of days. But I can remember sitting indoors the next day. I rented out a little place, a little cottage, and a couple of my mates phoned and said, "Fuck, God, there's been a job in Camden Town, King's Cross. A proper firm have come into London. They're a foreign firm. They're Russians or something," they said. And they've done this job, and they've tied all these security guards. They've got millions of pounds worth of data from credit card details and everything, and they've smashed it. They've come in, they've done it. And I go, "God, that's crazy." And then another firm would phone me up and say, "You won't believe what just happened last night." "What?" And they go, "Listen," I said, "You didn't do it, did you?" And then, "No, it ain't fucking me," you know what I mean? They go, and they say, we thought it might have been you. I said, "Don't be stupid," you know what I mean? And then so we had 3 or 4 of them saying it, and it was like, that's when it sort of hit you home. We'd really taken a liberty now. Right. And we didn't realise that we had taken the biggest liberty in London at that time for computer, because they were being done all over the place. 300,000 quid here, 400,000 quid here. It wasn't such a hit, but we'd gone right into the heart of London, and we took the biggest liberty. And next thing, they had a 70-strong team on us. Wow. Which really put a noose around my neck, basically, because every old bill wanted our scalp now. And you know what? We was pretty lucky because we were pretty tight. We was a proper little tight firm. We wasn't like most. We didn't go out every night. We all had our separate lives, and that was the beauty of it. I lived somewhere, they lived somewhere, and we just worked together. We wasn't going out every night. We wasn't barbecuing it. We wasn't doing nothing. We would just say, like, we've got a bit of work on here. I trust you, and we've known each other for years. So no one would speak out of school. Unfortunately, a job was done. the real old Bill turned up. A couple of them got a whack, and one of our guys got nicked. And then through known associates, they went through his known associates, and I was one of them. Right. So what I did, I then showed my picture to the old Bill, showed my picture to all the security guards that had been done over that period of time or whatever. And next thing I knew, they was after me, and then everywhere I went, they were coming through the door.
Serious?
They've been through every single door. Luckily all my friends got nicked, and from prison, I'm always up at R5. Because when you're in prison, you have to be up early, because when that door opens is when someone can come in your cell and do you. I've seen so many people asleep in their bed and they've been whacked. So, it's a thing that I get up at R5 every morning, if not earlier. I'm up and ready for the world. And luckily that sort of came out with me at because I'm always up early. And I can remember being up, my girlfriend was asleep, and I saw a guy, he just didn't look right. And so I thought, you know what, I didn't even say anything. I never said anything. I never took nothing. I left my jacket there, everything. I owned, just took I had my jeans on and my top, and I went, and my car keys. And I went and never even told her. And as I came down, as a Dr. Fatsy was, I came down one end for a little ladder that got me all the way down to the bottom. And I jumped from that to the ground, from the first floor. And as I walked around the corner, I saw them all going in. There's about 20 old Bill with shields and everything else, dogs, and I thought, fucking that was a bit of luck. And then I disappeared, and then I went on the run for a year. Right. I went and bought, I rented that canal boat, little place, and I just went on the run. All my mates got nicked. They all got sentenced to 10s and 11 years. And
was that scary being on the run, or was it still part of that exhilarating thing, or what? I don't know. Yeah.
For me, you know what, it was quite exhilarating for me. Because what I did, I used to go to the gym every day. So what I did was just like a normal. So I moved up to Dunstable. I met a really nice girl up there. She was a champion bodybuilder, and then her brother owned the gym. So I started in the gym every day. I created a new me. I told them I was a fast response police instructor for cars. So that kept everyone away from me then. Because if they thought I was Old Bill, it kept all the criminals away from me. I used to train with the Old Bill up in Dunstable.
Really?
Yeah. There's loads of police used to come in there. I had a police ID, and believe it or not, it was Darren Brown.
Right.
The illusionist.
Yeah.
And I had my police ID because I used to get into the gym for half price, because that's what they did. And I just done it as a joke with this girl, and then we started talking, and I ended up going out with her, blah, blah, blah. And I used to go to the gym, but I used to train with all the Old Bill. It was for surreal. Wow. And they said, where did you work? And I said, Kentish Town. And they said, what's happening? I said, I'm just on leave at the moment. I've had a
garden leave.
Yeah. It was. I just actually quite. I liked it, and but it was quite a buzz. And I got a car in someone else's name, friends of mine. So I was driving around, and nothing had really changed. The only thing that changed, I couldn't go down and see my kids or my family. And then when I did go down now, and I went to West Hampstead, they got facial recognition now.
Oh, really?
And I didn't realise at the time that they would be on every station, and it pinged me up, and then it pinged me back at the other end. So I got in Lee Grave. So I had a little place there, place in a house there, and I came out one morning, and I was talking to a friend of mine in London, because I was still active. I was still doing bits of graft, and then I was walking along, and all of a sudden I saw a car coming towards me on the grass. And there was a wall here, and I thought, where the fuck, where's he going? And as I looked round, another one came. So I jumped up in the air, and they sort of come together. And as I rolled onto the bonnet, a van pulled up, and all the Old Bill come out with and just started weighing me in. But they was all balaclavaed up. They was all like, covered up. So I actually thought I was getting kidnapped.
Right.
Because I don't know, because in that world we do some crazy things, and I thought something had come on top. And it was actually quite a relief to know that it was Old Bill, but it was also a massive relief that it was finally over. Right. I can remember sitting on the floor handcuffed, and they was all patting themselves on the back saying, we've got him. They were jumping for joy. There's about 20, 30 of them all standing around. And I looked at them, and they still didn't realise it was me, because they was expecting someone who was 6'4", because one of their mates got done on a bit of work. The copper had said that I was 6'4", even though I wasn't even on that job. But they was expecting a bear, they said, because the guy said I was a bear, and then blah, blah, blah. Anyway, So, you know, when they saw me, they kept saying, you're not as tall as we thought you was going to be.
You weren't the man we thought you were. Come
Well,
on, grow a bit.
But where I was training, I was really skinny. I wasn't training for muscle. I was just doing pull-ups, and I was really lean and I was really fit. So I went for that look. I'd shrunk right down, which is good. And I was just blending in. I didn't feel nothing of it. But I can remember going back to Kentish Town, and when I walked into the police station, because it's my local police station, because I knew them all there for years, and all over was like, we got him there, and I was all clapping. And I thought, oh God. So, you know, I spent 3 days in the cell, never said nothing, as you normally do. And then I had to go on an ID parade. And so I was in a block in there for about a week, because I wasn't twos up in the cell, because I turned down the block. So I went in the block for a week, and then I went on a production order for an ID parade. And then they took me to Highbury in Islington, first of all, and I had old Bill from everywhere coming and visit me about the MO and all that. And then they took me to Highbury, and it was shut. And then they took me to Kentish Town, and they said, well, you got to go from here to St Anne's ID suite. And I thought, oh, fucking hell, you know what I mean? Like, this is going to be a proper drama, you know, just lagging out. And as he put the cuffs on me, he was loose. And I had 8 old Bill with me at that time. And I'm now in the van with 3 old Bill, 1 driving, 2 at the back, and there's 2 escorts. I think there's 8 old Bill, a car in front, a car at the back, and a police van. And they're taking me out to this place, and as soon as we'd gone through St Anne's, as I'm driving along, I can remember the old Bill trying to say, listen, if you tell us about all your friends and everything, we can give you a couple of years. And I said, oh, piss off. I said, I'll be home tonight. I'll be home by dinner time. And they just said, you ain't going fucking nowhere. You ain't going to go nowhere for years, son. You know what I mean? So we had a laugh and a joke, and I just left it at that. But while I was talking to him, my cuff slipped off. It'd come off, and I was thinking, God, I'm going to be out of here in a minute. So when we pulled up at St Anne's, the guy who was driving, he was a big guy. He was about 6'3", big lump. I thought he was the only one. If he got me in a corner, I'll have trouble whacking him and getting him out. But there was a voice inside my head saying, like, you know, don't do it. Just do the bird, man. Just fucking do it, you know. And there's the other side that's always been there. Who's a lot stronger, saying, just fucking get out of cell. Just do it. Just whack him. So he got out, and he went to the door, and then they buzzed him in. Then I was with 2 guys in their 40s and 50s, and then there's all the other guys in the cars, and they just stayed in the car. And then when I came in, there was a 10-foot gate, and the wall was about 15 foot. It was. There's all cars running in vans, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do them both. Anyway, the guy behind me picked up a paper, started reading it, and the guy that was nearest to the door, because you know they're all on central locking them doors. If I whacked him, I didn't know whether the door was going to open or whatever. And then all of a sudden he clicked it, and he opened it, and he stepped down. So I just thought, fucking bam! I just weighed him in. And as I ran around the corner, I had 1 cuff that was sticking out here, because it's one of them rigid ones. I ran around, and just because it was about 50 or 60 yards away as I ran the corner. And as I went running around the corner, they've all come flying now, all the old Bill out the cars and everything else. There's 3 old Bill come through the gate. So I couldn't even get over the fence. So I run on top of the car onto the roof, and jumped onto a van and jumped onto the wall. And as I'm trying to pull myself up, this cuff is sticking in me, but I'm now sort of, I'm laughing to myself that I'm going to be home. I'm free. I'm going to be out of here. I'm going to be home, and I've done it. I've beat them all again. And all of a sudden, someone grabbed hold of my leg. I had a whack on the back on someone was around my throat, and the next thing I just landed on the floor, you know. And they started weighing me in. They busted my eye, my shoulder, 3 broken ribs. And then luckily my solicitor came through the door. He drove in.
Timing.
He just drove in there, and they had handcuffed me now, and they would march me into the van, and they said, "What's going on here?" And I said, "You ain't gonna believe this. I just got out of the van. They just all jumped me." And he went, "God, leave me alone." And they said, and they was all like, you know, they're all going off. They know he tried to escape, and I said, "This is a joke. Look, they've cuffed me, and I'm, you know, blah blah." And he said, if I see one more mark on that man, I had a busted eye and everything. And then they put me face down in the van, and they took me back to Pentonville.
A lucky escape, jeez.
Well, it was would have been a lucky escape, but I ended up going back to Pentonville, and they put me in a suit, you know, the escape suit. Mm-hmm. So, but what happened then is that they said that because of the way I'd acted, that I was a little bit off key. Because most people think about things and they don't act on them. And that was always a problem with me, is that I would think about something and I would do it. And that's the difference between most people. They would think about it. Most people that do anything think about it first and then act on their thoughts and feelings. But most people have the capacity to actually think about something and then say, you know what, that's going to get me. That's going to get me somewhere. But there was always a voice that said, you know, I think you can do that.
Good idea, Tom.
Good idea. And so they said that I was a bit off key, and for that, I would be advised to see a psychologist. And I said, you know what, do one because I ain't seeing no one. And about three weeks later, I've been in the patches now. I was segregated from everyone. I was escorted to my dinner. I was moved from cell to cell every other day. I was stripped. I couldn't wear my clothes just a suit. I took all my clothes off me every single night. It was a proper pain because now I couldn't mix with anyone. And in about 3 or 4 weeks later, this psychologist came into my cell and said, I'm here to talk to you. And I was so bored from sitting in my cell 24 hours a day. But I said, you know what? Come on, let's have a... First of all, I said, I don't really need to talk to you, darling. I've got no problems. I'm quite normal. Yeah. And she went, I've been reading your reports, blah, blah, blah. So I then went with her and we sort of sat in a room, or, it was a screws office there. And there was a sort of a makeshift office here, but all glass. So it was like, one flew over the cuckoo's nest or whatever, but the screws, 5 or 6 screws were there. I was in this see-through glass Tupperware box, and the rest of the cons were walking around and everything else, and I was stuck in there with this lady. And we started speaking. And I don't know, for me, it was a moment, it just unleashed all the crap that I'd been building up over the years. But so to finally let it out was really rewarding. Right. But also I had to sort of cope with the fact that I was still in prison, so I couldn't be weak. But every time I think about it now, it's sort of, as you see, I could feel myself. But
what was the initial thing that she said to you that made you go, actually, there might be something here?
Do you know what? I was just talking about my childhood. Yeah. Going to care, being away from your family, being away from my kids, just normal. The things that you dismiss, things that you push down. So for me, it was it was a moment, and I think that was the first time ever. And I thought, you know what, there's something definitely wrong with you. There's something that you, because I never had no empathy. I never could feel for anyone. I never even gave them a second thought, and I lived my life like that. But to actually start feeling empathy and start feeling feelings was quite a moment. Even now, because I think once you open that box, I got a little dog there. I got my Cavapoo there, and if anything happens to him, I cheer up. But for me, it opened that Pandora's box of emotions. I saw her for about 6 months, and we started speaking, and it was a great help. And then she left, and I had to go back to me and being me again. So the armour came on. But in that moment, in that period of time, we discussed a place called Grendon Underwood. There's a therapeutic prison in Aylesbury. It houses 228 men. Some of the most violent and dangerous men in the country. Paedophiles, rapists, child killers, serial killers, you name it, there. But it was like the gold American card of psychology and psychiatric treatment and everything else. So, you go into groups, and you discuss everything. You have to have a real good trust with the guys, and you do an induction process for 12 weeks, and then while I was on that induction process, someone got killed in there. Right. And I thought, God, I've come from a mainstream prison where it was happening, and it's still happening here. Still, someone just got killed. I've only been there a couple of weeks, but I hadn't get, so the whole process of the induction process was about seeing if I could. I'd done lots of biometric tests to see if I was capable of learning, change, and understanding things, and I passed that with flying colours. I was a sociopath of the month, or whatever other label they put on me. And then for 3 months, I was in sort of miniature groups with these guys, but not really explaining any therapy. We were just talking about our crimes and bits and pieces, but nothing really in depth. It was just to see how we all interacted and how we can cope with other prisoners. You've got a guy coming in front of you, like I said, he's just broke his kid's back, and broke all his ribs and that, and he's talking to you. Another guy who's killed his daughter. Another guy who's raped a load of old women. And all of a sudden you're in the company with people that you'd never ever dreamed of actually being around. And now you're after to treat them like human beings and humanise them in such a way that you've never even considered before. So that first 12 weeks for me was hard, I had to, and also humanising officers, or screws as I used to call them, because you couldn't read the paper. You couldn't have your telly on either in this place. In the daytime,
it was a constant therapeutic.
It was a constant. The whole thing was 24 hours a day therapy. But that first 12 weeks was the first from the first day. Is for the first time for years in quite a few years. I actually gone to a table and eaten.
Wow.
I'd already eaten on myself just standing up. But now I was around the table with 4 other guys. So that was quite surreal. I was also, to read the paper, I couldn't just take it out of the office or take it into a room. I had to read it in front of the officers. So that made I had to go in there, they were the enemy. They was always the enemy, because I got some serious beatings when I was in prison over the years. And they was, for me, they were the scum of the earth, most of them. They were mostly back in the day, they were ex-servicemen, and they didn't think twice about giving you a good kicking. For no other reason than they could. If you was in a block, they would just do it. It was every day. So to be in this room with them, and to start talking to them, and then realising that they were actually human beings, was another epiphany that needed to experience. That they're not all like that. There are good and bad everywhere, even officers. So so over that 12 week, I started talking to them, started getting to know them, started calling them by their first name.
Wow,
which was great, because normally you call him governor, screw.
Definitely humanises somebody for giving them the first name term.
So that was the first. That was the process. So eating, talking to them, and doing a thought diary for the first time ever, writing something out.
Wow.
So I'd done this thought diary of how I felt and how they made me feel, and how I felt about other situations. So I just kept writing, and it's quite a fight for me. And also, I met a few people. I got quite an eclectic. My first wife was Indian. I got mixed race kids, and my family we were quite integrated from a young age. But there was quite some misogynistic people there, something I never really understood. Talking about women, derogatory, and also racist there. So for me, I couldn't just let it go. I always say something, and I remember pulling this guy up for racist jokes, and I explained to him my wife was Indian. If you had done it again, I was going to brain you. But I couldn't threaten him because I was there. Because you when you go there, you sign a compact that you can't threaten anyone. Threats to kill, you'll be voted out. Any sign of aggression, you'll be gone. So you had to sort of conduct yourself in a way where you articulated something. So I had to explain to him that if he carried on, I would seriously hurt him. In a nice way. So that I came across that. But just so we done the fault diary was great because it's very cathartic, and then they saw my behaviours come out. Then the confrontation with him, that I was able to confront him and then actually learn from it without actually hitting him. So they knew that that they could work with me. So I'd done this in front of people, because if I'd have been on my own, I'd have weighed him in. So I had to do it in that environment, in that therapeutic setting, to tell him exactly what I thought of him and how it evoked memories and shit, but being a bully and all that crap. And also being a misogynist for someone else, and the way they treat people. So it was actually really rewarding for me to talk in that setting without having to whack anyone for the first time.
It's a very lengthy process to go through, because normally it'd be a one bomb, that's it. Whereas now you've got to really express. Okay, so you're making me feel this way. This is how So it's a different way of doing things.
I think for me, I always had one tool that I would go to, and that was violence. I never had any other tools in my armory. I never had anyone to sort of grow as an adult. I never had a father that would say, what, you're 11 years old now. From this day forward, you're going to articulate a response to any given situation and stop hitting anyone. But I never had that. So all we had was I was surrounded by loads of people that violence was what, if you were right, if you were wrong, you were right, because you had the biggest punch, or you had the most violence. But I'm now in this environment where the only tool I had was that, and I had to sort of learn really quick. You know, how do I get through this? You know, so for the first time in my life, I'm trying to circumnavigate myself through a minefield of emotions. You know, and taking in everyone's offences. I mean, I'm talking about most horrendous offences you could imagine, and also deal with that. So you got to deal with that, conflict resolution, anger. You know, and it's all happening. It's going on in your head at the same time, which is great.
How hard was it to switch on that emotive kind of, or not switch on, but kind of find that emotion, that actual like self-analytical thing? How hard was that to grasp, or was it something that was so like?
I think once you start doing therapy, so the good thing about therapy is that when you're there, you see how raw you are, and then you see people that are calmer who've been there for a few weeks, and then you see the people coming behind you, how they react. They act like you did when you first come on. Now you're trying to act like them. So it's like a natural progression. So you can
see the past and the future.
You can see and it's staring you in the face, and you then automatically think, well, you know what? If I carry on doing what he's doing all the time, I'm not going to get any benefits at all. I'm not going to benefit from what they're going to offer me because I'm just shutting them down all the time. So you know, if I act like this and keep shutting everyone down, I'm not going to get nowhere. So what I need to do is I need to start talking. I need to stop threatening, stop using aggression, stop being bullshit and self-opinionated. I need to go and ask the questions and also tell them exactly how it makes me feel. Exactly, yeah. And then when I started doing that, I actually got such a good response from them. And vice versa, they did exactly the same to me. So they corrected my behaviours, which is, you know, for being told that you come across as very aggressive and a bully by someone else is quite a moment, because no one's ever done it to me. So to feel that I was actually doing it to that person, and even if the person was a rapist or a paedophile or a child killer, it didn't really matter. You know, it mattered the fact that I'd actually made people feel that way. So you know, you start feeling a little bit of empathy, and then you start looking at yourself completely different. Now, do I actually come across like that? Because I never saw myself like that. You know, so you have no other option actually to change. So you know, it was instrumental that all the little things I'd done, from going in the office, writing the diary, to eating with the guys. And that was the first 12 weeks. And then I got through the first 12 weeks, and I thought, well, that was quite good. You know, I quite enjoyed that process. And
it's almost kind of like a relearning process, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're kind of learning how to be, say, a normal human being, but like you're learning how to function in that way. You know?
From pre-adolescent to adult.
Yeah, right.
But if I thought that was pretty hard, and you know, and it was a learning process, I now had to go onto a main wing with 40 other guys that have been in therapy for years, 6 years, 8 years, and some even 10. And these guys were clued up. They knew every behaviour, you know, whether it's from drinking, every criminal behaviour. We're dealing with guys now that are doing life in prison. They've seen it all, done it all before, and now I'm going in there. There's no way I'll be able to pull the wire over these guys' eyes. So going into therapy was, you know, and introducing myself, and then actually working on some of the issues and humanising these guys as well, because again they were all murderers and everything else. But there was you know, you had to trust these guys, because you were going to open up to some of the worst things that have happened to you in your life, and there was that sort of you got that bond and trust. You know, they all became my friends when we was in therapy.
Yeah, there's that old saying that's like in vulnerability there is connection. Yeah, and that is I think that's quite true.
And it worked, you know, because as much as they'd done what they did, they also had life experience that traumatized them. You know, they were beaten, sexually abused, you know, everything, any conceivable act of what you could imagine that some parents do or some person has done to them has done it, you know. And then when you start hearing that, you can't go any other way apart from feel empathy towards them. Yeah. You know, I never ever liked any of them as friends. I never liked any of them as that I would, you know, other than doing the therapy. I would never socialise with them outside.
But as like human beings that have been traumatised, you take it for what it is.
Yeah, you know, I think you have to put yourself in a child's mind. That, you know, you got to look at them when they're childs. You know, for me, it's easy for someone to say, well, that never happened to me. Well, that could never possibly happen to me. But you've got to take into consideration, they were kids, 8, 10-year-old kids. So they're coming from a position where they're men now, and they're very violent because of what happened to them, and they've done some things. But I also think as well, I know lots of guys that have been abused. I know lots of guys have been sexually abused, physically abused. They haven't gone on to harm kids or rape women. So so for me, there's never, I don't think it's an excuse to do that, to make another victim and make yourself feel good. That's your actions.
Choice.
Is your choice. So so I never really fed into that crap with some of them, but I do believe that everyone has a capability to change, even if they still think about what they want to do. As long as they don't act on it, there's a learning process there. I believe that some of the guys that I met were capable of change. I can only assume that some of them did change. I can't speak for them, but I only saw what I saw there, and quite a lot of it was a manipulation to jump through the therapeutic process for rehabilitation process to show their probation officers and personal officers that they had changed, because they had no other option than to give that persona out simply because they wanted to get out of prison. So there were people that were blagging it, but there were also people that were actually learning some great things out of it.
Well, I mean, you're a true testament to someone who has actually gone through it and has learned, and is still, I imagine, learning, about it and around it. And
you know what I learned, I used to self-medicate quite a bit, drugs, women, because I never had no love as a kid, so I compensated with lots of women, so I would, when I was in a relationship, I had 2 or 3 girlfriends. So when this one finished, I could go straight there. So there was never that moment where I wasn't loved, because I needed it. It was like a drug to me. The cocaine, alcohol. It was only when I started dealing with with everything and started to rationalise it, normalise it, whatever, and I really understand it for what it was. It's such a great thing coming out of prison, because I can remember going to my daughter's place, and she had a place in Hampstead. And she said, Dad, I'm going to leave you here tonight. Do what you want to do. There's some money there if you want to go out, if you want to do this and whatever. And I said, yeah, lovely. I'll speak to you tomorrow. And I can remember walking past the pub. And it was, in Hampstead, it was all glass, and there was all people being jolly, and, it was nice. It was a nice atmosphere. It was a nice pub. There was no violence, no crap. And I looked in there, and I could really do with a drink, have a smoke, take some gear. But you know what? I was so strong then. Like from what I'd done, I dealt with it. I just thought, no, I walked home. I stayed indoors. 11. I remember 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. I was waiting for the pub to shut. Right. And when I actually got past it, I thought, God, that's great. I've actually done it, because I've never lasted.
Power, isn't it? Yeah,
right. But I've never lasted before. All the times I tried that move before. Within the first few minutes, I'd given in to myself, because that voice inside of me always said, why are you doing? Why are you denying yourself that? Why are you, just have a drink, ain't gonna hurt you. A little one. And I'll have a drink, a fag, and some gear. Next thing I know, I'll be waking up the next morning thinking, oh God, I've just done it. But now I was in a position where I was in control. That voice that was always powerful and strong was weak. Wow. The weak voice in me that was always good is now strong. So now the dynamics have changed. I had a little bit of faith in there as well, because I became a born again Christian. And I think and the desire to change. So the ingredients came together: kids, faith, therapy, and that being at the right age. And I've never looked back. I've come out of prison, come back to an area. I left prison with a tent, but I've had so much. I think because of my faith that it was always going to be okay. I could talk about the prison system and them setting men like me up to fail until I'm blue in the face about rehabilitation. But you know what? That's by the way. I think having faith in coming out of prison and just believing that I had changed and I was capable of change, was what set me up now. I met the most amazing girl after a couple of months. My ex-girlfriend actually put me up at her house, and she was actually married. But where I had changed so much, she never saw this guy that was capable and a bit off key. She now saw someone that was actually, she would like to invite back into her home. Wow. So she gave me a room. I decorated all her house while they was one holiday. I saw my kids again. We formed new bonds and new relationships, and it was so much better than it was before. So much more rewarding.
How do you maintain that level of life now, or is it now just kind of ingrained in you? Don't have to fight that other side now. Is it just ingrained in you now that you've been through it and you're now at a standpoint where you can talk about it? And
I think for me, with the criminal lifestyle comes so many challenges. If you're getting easy money, and your life dictates that you have to go into clubs, into pubs, into that environment, so you have to mix. So you drink, you smoke, you take drugs to stay up. So it's a real bad, toxic environment, criminality itself. I found that when I came out this time, I told everyone I was a born-again Christian to keep them away from me. Okay. Just stay away from me because I've changed. I don't want nothing to do with you. That was the first step. And I started going to church. The second one was that now I never had them overheads. I never had to earn 500 quid every other day just to feed my lust for women and drugs and drink, because now I wasn't smoking, I wasn't womanizing, I wasn't taking drugs. Really, yeah. So basically my overheads have come down, my association with other people had gone. And you know what, all I needed now was some food and accommodation. So I met the most amazing girl. She's a school teacher. After a few weeks of meeting her, I told her everything about me. We got on so well. She doesn't drink, she doesn't smoke, and she goes to church, which is great. Everything I wish for.
Bingo.
So I moved in with her, and since then I've been doing things that makes me happy. I was never happy being a criminal. It was never rewarding. There was moments of euphoria, moments of camaraderie, but nothing that really sustained my heart or my soul. I helped start up Camden Against Violence, because we had I think we had 8 kids get killed in the space of that 5-year period, 3 in one weekend. So we started a campaign where we started going to schools talking about feeding into a belief system that only protects the criminals in this community. And it's time that we stood up as a community, because if you feed into a belief system that says snitches get stitches or you're a grass, that's a belief system that belongs to them. It doesn't belong to normal people who pay their taxes and work every day. So you shouldn't be seen as a grass. So for me, it was about empowering the community to say, hold on a minute. There's nothing there's nothing in that belief system that is worthy of actually defending. If a grown man stabs a kid who's unarmed, that's nothing you should aspire to. That's nothing you should be proud of, and it's nothing you should protect. So I stood up in a few meetings and said it. And through that, we started Camden Against Violence. We had the march, and then the girls in it are fabulous. They started getting involved with organisations that could take kids on courses, English and everything else, and painting and decorating. They now got their own office. We grew it into something that was quite good. We got in touch with the council. They gave us an office, and I've come away from it now simply because I think we took it as far as I can. But I also do talks on it and direct people there all the time now. So I then went from there, I went on to the Band of Brothers, because I felt there was something missing in the area for grown men. I know that for myself, grown men isolate themselves. If they've got no social skills, they hold back as well. But they've also got a lot to offer as far as life skills. They've all been there, done it all. They might be sitting indoors now because they're insecurities, they've got no money or whatever. And the Band of Brothers at that time for me was something that was free. It was. I went on a weekend. I thought it was actually quite. It was one of the best weekends I had as far as trusting other men, because we just don't trust other men as men.
Yeah. What is it? What is Band of Brothers?
The Band of Brothers is an organisation that is for men, just men. I think there's 12 branches now. We set one up in Camden, and you go there for a week and you talk to each other. You learn to trust each other, and there's certain things you do on that weekend. I won't give it away because that's the crux of the weekend. But you come away feeling really rewarded. And then every Wednesday we meet up and we sit around in a circle and then we talk.
That sounds amazing.
And then the people that want to give their life experiences back, then get trained as mentors to go out into the community.
Who can come a part of that?
Anyone can come. Any man from 25 to 70 years old. I was on the course with 70-year-old guys. Okay. We had gay guys, straight guys, Muslims. We had black, every nationality, because it's religious. It's not religious based. It's just people want to do things, okay. And there's no discrimination, which is great. And I met some real good characters there, and I keep in touch with them all today.
I'll give me some of the details of it. I'm quite interested in. That sounds very interesting.
Right. And then I started running that with them, and then I became an ambassador for the Forward Trust. I went and done something with Jeremy Corbyn and all the front bench. just saying that, that there are prisoners that are coming out who are worth more, who have got so much to give. They're being penalised, they're doing a sentence, and they're also being penalised once they come out because they can't get jobs. So it's about showing that people that have been through the system, who've come out the other end, who are drug-free, have been rehabilitated, who've sorted out their problems, are actually worth investing in. So we've got loads of organisations that now employ ex-offenders.
Oh, great.
So I went on the news on Channel 5, 5 News, and I went on and spoke on there about it, and great response. And now it seems to be I think there's loads of organisations now and companies that are actually employing ex-offenders, which is fabulous. Really
it's good. It's good that there are some outs, because as you said, when you come out and you are homeless and you've got nothing, it's like well, okay, well I'll just get back into doing the stuff I was doing then, because it's what you know. But if there are now outs for ex-offenders to,
I mean, if you there's still a lot to be done,
of course,
because there's no social housing, there's no hostels. And unfortunately we have a revolving door of recidivism that keeps going around and round and round, simply because there's not the will to change it. We invest £40,000 a year in an inmate inside prison, but the minute he needs any help we say no, because you're not in prison. So most of the guys that come out that I know come out and they're homeless. They live on people's cities. They live on they're living in rooms that and they've got no security. Most of the people that they're staying with have got mental health problems, or they're old acquaintances that are into criminality. For me, it's about, if you do leave prison, you need some self-worth. One, you need a trade, you need a job to go into. One, you need education, and then secondly, is the most important thing is somewhere to live. If you've got somewhere to live, you've got a trade, and you've got a job, the chances of you going back in prison are pretty slim.
Okay.
Because I know from myself, the biggest fear of a man coming out, again, is actually going for a job. The thought of being turned down after being a career criminal and going for a normal job, it's quite, to be embarrassed that you're not worthy of actually doing a job even in Tesco's or Walters, simply because you haven't had the experience and you're going to be knocked back because of your crime or your criminality. It's quite hard for them, so most of them revert back to type anyway. I'm talking that 40% that keep going back and back and back, just not getting the same advantages of most people that go into prison. Just to give you one idea of prison. Most people that go to the education department inside prison have got a good education.
Right.
They've been to college, been to university. I've had all the advantages that people have. They're smugglers, they're fraudsters and everything. But when they go into prison, that 60% go into education, because the way the system's set up is about the service providers. They get a bonus for everyone that does their form and does their courses, and there's quite a lot of money to be earned. So what happens? They go in and they get all the cream jobs because they're manageable. They've got a good education and they can show improvement in English. Blah blah blah. They do all the level 1, 2, and 3. That 40% that work on the landings that are dyslexic, that can't read, are a problem. They'd rather leave them on the landings, when basically the people that have had all the advantages should be on the landings. That 40% should be back in the classrooms, and they should be working with them, teaching them. And then instead of having a system that rewards productivity as far as tick box rehabilitation, we should be working on that 40%, because that 60% most of them go out and don't come back anyway. Yeah. If we worked on this 40% and educated them, give them some self-worth, give them a trade, and give them a job as soon as they walk out, then we won't have this problem. And
you also said something quite interesting about dyslexia and about how like owning it is the kind of.
For me, I've spent most of my time telling guys. And I do now, and telling kids that if you've got dyslexia and you learn differently from others, it's not something you should be ashamed of. It's embarrassing, there's no doubt about it. And there's shame in it, there's everything, because you don't want to feel bad in front of your peers. And the kid will scream, shout, and everything to stay out of that classroom, to stop his friends from knowing that he's dyslexic. So what I tell everyone when I go in now, even though I've written a book, I've written 3 books now, I tell them I've got dyslexia. But we live in a time, a technological age now, where we've got phones that we can do any spelling in 2 seconds. We've got thesauruses, we've got everything. So we need to use everything around us. But the most important thing, we need to own it. Because as soon as everyone knows that you're dyslexic, they can't take the mick out of you.
It stops that, doesn't it? Stops role already starting, doesn't it? Yeah.
And also the teachers now are aware of you've got dyslexia. So there's no need to sort of, be disruptive in class to get yourself excluded. Because people will go to great lengths to exclude themselves from class. And when you consider that the majority of killings inside prison and outside now in the community is for embarrassment and ego and shame. There's such a powerful emotion. If we can teach kids that they don't physically hurt, even grown men as well. I've known lots of men that have killed for embarrassment and ego. If we can teach them it doesn't physically hurt, and then from them to own dyslexia or any learning disability, then for me it's a step in the right direction, because I know for a fact the vast majority of criminals that I know have got dyslexia. I'm talking about I'm talking about 90% of them can't write, are very bad spellers, and what I did, that sets them up to a criminal lifestyle, which could have been averted if we could deal with it at source, which is at school. Right. Instead of excluding these kids and treating them like demonising them, we need to invest. If we can afford to invest 40,000, so for a kid to go into the criminal justice system is £130,000, and then we got to keep them every year. That's £40,000. So if we can invest 130 straight away to putting them through there, and then 40 grand a year, why don't we start investing that money into schools, after school projects, and directing the resources of these kids in particular, because they're the kids that are going to cost hundreds of millions of pounds in the future. Yeah, right. You just, but when you see it, it's only because I've been in prison, I've seen it time and time again, and I really know what needs to be done. Unfortunately, they don't come and ask us. There is you can't even work in prison and do anything. There's guys that are in prison that they've got so many skills: paint decorators, plasterers, plumbers, everything. But they're not allowed to work in prison for health and safety. But they get outside companies that come in, like Carillion, that charge double or not triple than other companies, because they got contracts with contracts, but there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of £1 million being spent on this. But we should utilise the guys that we got in there and all their skills, and then the money that they save, they should then invest inside prison to educate them and house them when they come out. It's really a simple concept, but you know what? It just seems to be frowned upon.
Yeah, I mean, there's. I mean, I don't know, but I'm imagining that there's so much link and tie between business and prison and private contractors, and that. Yeah. Yeah.
I think if you go into any prison now, is service provider hell. Right. And when you consider that, I've met professors, I've met school teachers, I've met so many guys that are really well educated that could run a class, but yet we were prepared to pay outside providers to actually do the work that they could do. But we use prisoners to work in the sweatshops in there, in all the other shops. Why can't we use them in the education department? Why can't we use them we use them for the gyms? We use everything that what you can't get money out of. But, as soon as this is a money, you can monetize it, then they put a service provider in there. But you know what, for me, I think if I could go to a prisoner who has got an education, who's willing to teach me, I would have gone a long time ago. I was never prepared to go to a classroom with someone I didn't know, who never had no inclination of what my life was like or could understand it. But if I could go into a class with another con or a criminal and sat down with him and he understood where I was coming from and everything else, I'd probably be more. Well, I've done it. I've actually gone into them classes. I actually felt more at ease in doing it, because I thought that he understood me more than someone else who never had a clue. Was it just some person that was just going through the whatever they were doing, So yeah, I think there's a lot of untapped resources inside prison that should be utilised. Education is a necessity, and they should be doing more. If you've got a guy for 8 or 10 years, why is he still coming out? Why is he still coming out uneducated? And also, we've also got a care system inside prison, which I won't knock, because I think they do a fantastic job on the whole, the care system in there. But unfortunately, it's a private provider, and they get money by doing prescriptions. Now, the biggest currency inside prison is prescription drugs. Right. It's handed out like confetti from the private providers, because they have shareholders to consider. So if a man goes to them and says, "I've got a bad back," years ago, if you had a bad back, you were told to get back to your cell, sleep on it, sleep it off. If you had anything wrong with you, you'd get an Anodine, or a paracetamol. That paracetamol was for everything: broken leg, broken arm, anything that was wrong with you, paracetamol. Now you go to the healthcare department now inside prison, you're getting every single drug that is available. painkillers. And what they do, they burn them down and they get all the the derivatives off them, and then they smoke it in that. So but it's a massive cottage industry inside prison, but you tell them and no one listens.
Right.
So because it's a massive money spending operation in there, which is crazy. There should be more ex-prisoners actually advising probation and the powers that be to actually get it right, especially where housing is concerned.
Well, I mean, in whatever avenue you go down, however you get your message across, I hope this Guardian thing is good for you, and just in whatever way. I mean, just the best of luck, because you've quite clearly been through that system, and therapy's worked for you, and there's obviously so much more to do. And
I think we continue to do it. Through this COVID period, we started a company called Scoff Meals. We do meals for people that want to lose weight, do gyms and all that. But we had to shut down like everyone else. But what we did, instead of sitting at home, I was walking around the streets and I saw loads of homeless people, and I was told that they was all giving hotels, and it wasn't. There's a lot of old people that couldn't get out. So what I did, I got in touch with Vicky Patterson. She was on Geordie Shore, and my daughter, and they phoned up all the suppliers, Kellogg's, McVitie's, everywhere. They sent, the crisp manufacturers, everything. They sent down soups, everything. We had a whole warehouse from Yahoo Hire, and we filled it up.
Wow.
And over the last 10 weeks, we managed to do 10,000 care packages for age concern.
Wow.
The food banks, and for the homeless. We've been giving that to all the homeless.
Wow.
And it's been for me, that's the most rewarding.
Yeah, great.
To go and do that over the last 10 weeks, it's been so rewarding. It's been brilliant.
Yeah, wicked.
Better than crime.
Yeah.
Better than prison. I've had such a great time. I've met some really wonderful people, and for me, I just want to, just to let people know, the most important thing is to deal with your past to create a different future. You can't move forward unless you deal with the problems. Because you know what, I never saw myself doing care packages. I never saw myself going on to the Band of Brothers, to the Forward Trust. Camden Against Violence. I would never have done none of them things, and we saved lives. We've literally saved lives doing what we've done over the last few years. But if I'd have never done therapy in Grendon and never dealt with my past, I've never moved forward. So there's a lot to be said. Prison changed my life in so many ways. I have to be thankful.
Yeah. Wow. That was quite something.
Cheers, brother.
Yeah, wow.
I think the sun's on my side today. I got a lease of life, I feel okay. Need to call around, get them all out, jump in the car and get on the way. Cause there's love and the strength in numbers. They can try, but they're never gonna run us down. Speakers loud, it's like we're on a come up. Fifth gear, but they're never gonna race us down. I'm alive on a high, blue skies, there's nothing better. Hands up, we're on a ride, hold tight, we're laughing together. Ooh, we light it up, and ooh, we can't be stopped. And oh, can't hear us coming. Oh, we take off and keep it running. Take a stop at the riverside, crack 'em open, pass around the light. Breathe it in and out, bring our guards down. Yeah, this is ours for the day and the night. Cause there's love and the strength in numbers. They can try, but they're never gonna run us down. Speakers loud, it's like we're on a come up. Fifth gear, but they're never gonna race us down. I'm alive on a high, blue skies, there's nothing better. Hands up, we're on a ride, hold tight, we're laughing together. Ooh, we light it up, and ooh, we can't be stopping. Oh, you can't hear us coming. keep it raining.